Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for joining our Smart Homes webinar today. I'm going to be your moderator for the day. My name is Amy Cameron, and hopefully we'll guide you through this session with no technical glitches. So just to start off with a bit of housekeeping, all of you who are attending the webinar, you guys are in listen-only mode, so we won't be able to hear what you're saying, but if you need to send us a comment, you can do so in the comments or questions box. At the end of the session, we'll be doing a Q&A. So while you're listening and as questions come to mind, please do type them in and we will address them after the presentations are done. For the best sound quality, we'd ask you to listen on a USB connected headset. Very occasionally, people do have trouble with the sound, so try adjusting the volumes locally or signing out and signing back in. But if we do get lots of comments with people having issues, then we'll address it on our end. So our speakers today are first David Pringle. He is the lead researcher on our Reconnecting with Consumers stream, and he wrote our recent report on smart homes. So he'll be talking about customer drivers and how telcos can meet them. After that, we have our guest presenter, Thomas Rockmann, who is VP of Consumer IoT for Deutsche Telekom. And he'll be talking about DT's experience in delivering smart home solutions. So thank you both very much for joining us today. So very quickly, before I hand over, I'm going to run a poll to get a sense of where the audience stands. So from your opinion, what do you think householders most want from a smart home solution? And we encourage you to choose two options. So I'm going to launch that now and give you all a few seconds to respond. Hopefully on your screen, you can all see the questions. I guess they're fairly clear. Do users want ease of use? Do they want privacy? Do they want it to be cheap? Do they want suggestions on how they can improve their homes, or do they want a level of personalization? We'll just give you a few more seconds to answer, and then we'll pop up the results so everyone can see them. Okay, there we go. And now hopefully you guys can all see the results from the poll in the audience view. David, are you able to see those results? Very good. So at this stage, I'm done my housekeeping duties, and I will hand over to our first presenter, David, who can have a quick discussion on the results and start his presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Amy, and thank you, everybody, for joining us, and thanks for your input on that poll. So hopefully those results are going to be aligned with what I'm talking about. I'm going to talk about some of the consumer drivers in this market, and as you can see, I think ease of use is the top choice there, which makes perfect sense in a complex environment like the smart home. And there's also strong support there for personalization and privacy, which is again understandable. So thank you for that. Now let me talk a little bit about. Sorry, I'm just moving the slides on. Hopefully, yep. And again, yeah. So let me talk a little bit about the underlying demand for the smart home. So obviously, smart speakers have got, if you forgive the pun, they've got everybody talking about smart home opportunity again. It's been around for actually a long time, and telcos have been talking about it for a long time. But setting smart speakers aside for a moment, there is some big macro trends which are actually driving interest in smart home style solutions, and these amount to things like housing shortages, rising inequality, people want to shop online, and obviously the capabilities of digital technology to actually keep an eye on your home and see what's going on there. So we would argue that probably the biggest driver and why people will actually buy a smart home solution is essentially peace of mind. It's about security and privacy as much as talking to a speaker in your kitchen or in your bedroom. It's actually knowing what is going on in your home at any one time. And for many use cases related to that, it's not, the smart speaker is not really the ideal interface. It's more you'd like to see on a tablet, or a smartphone. You might like to get a video feed or a dashboard showing how much energy you're using, or what your children are doing, whether they're spending too much time on the Xbox or PlayStation, etc. So in many cases, a smart speaker is actually almost marginalized by some of these use cases, because a lot of them are about this peace of mind concept when you're actually away from the home. But there's another aspect to this as well, which is the sharing economy, in which people are increasingly renting their homes out through services like Airbnb. They want to take deliveries from internet shopping companies, Amazon, etc. And they want to have remote control over access to their house as well. Again, this is not really a smart speaker application. This is more about tapping a few buttons on your smartphone to let the delivery person leave a parcel in your porch or your garage, or let a potential tenant into your Airbnb property. So there's this sharing economy concept, which is another driver of the smart home side of things. But we would argue, given the number of different use cases, simplicity, ease of configuration, ease of use is very, very important, and that just came out in the poll there. So actually, you need to essentially allow people to access these use cases through a very simple, intuitive interface. Typically something like a dashboard where they can see exactly what's happening in their home at any one time, which locks are open, which locks are locked, how much energy is being used, which devices or appliances are being used. And it can all be easily seen and actually controlled remotely through a single application or dashboard. Again, it's not really about a voice-activated speaker in this context. So let's just assume that the smart home market is much, much broader than the smart speaker market, but the smart speaker market is a big driver in getting this market going and generating interest around it. So I'm just going to move on to the role of telcos in potentially in addressing these different areas of demand. And you can see on this slide, I put the potential problems faced by householders down the left-hand side, and they're in a sort of a broad order of importance. Clearly, this will differ by household and differ by consumer, but let's say that this is a broad pecking order. And then in the next column, I put potential solutions which might help a householder address that problem. And then in the third column, we've got the relevant telco capabilities, where a telco might actually be able to help provide those solutions. So I'm not going to go through all of these because that would take too much time, but just to talk through the top one. Given what we've just been talking about, these macro trends, it's actually now quite complex to manage a family home in particular, particularly if you're a parent, you're trying to manage children, you've got potentially a lot of connected devices in your home, you've got a lot of energy being used, a lot of activity, etc. You're worried about insurance, you want to know the condition of key things like your washing machine, is it about to break down, etc. There's a lot of complexity in the home environment. So a way a telco can help with this is obviously, first and foremost, you need reliable connectivity so that you can always see what is happening in the home, that you have that connection, you have some remote control. But there's also a role potentially for the telco in pulling together the various different pieces from the different appliance makers, the different consumer electronics companies, the different utilities, the different insurance companies, all the different players that might feed into a smart home holistic solution. So there's a kind of systems integration role that a telco, albeit a big telco with those kind of capabilities, could play to simplify life for consumers. So I'm not going to, as I say, I'm not going to go through every single one of these slides, but I will just pick out one more before moving on, which is, I think, I alluded to this earlier, but I think it's quite an important one in the context of the sharing economy, which is this idea of providing easy access. I mean, we've long relied on physical keys to get in and out of our properties, get in and out of our cars, etc. But they're not a particularly efficient system. You can lose them. Essentially, you can leave them behind somewhere. You know, they're not always where you want them, and you can't necessarily get them to a third party easily so they can gain access to your property. So in this day and age, it makes sense to have a connected lock that can be accessed remotely, and you can actually see when that lock's been opened, and you can even authenticate the person that's actually accessing your property. So again, telcos, they have authentication capabilities. Clearly, they can provide connectivity. In many markets, they're trusted. People know that they're going to be around, and it's the sort of thing that a telco could provide. And Singtel's actually doing this in Singapore, I think for an investment in a startup called Igloo Home, which is providing these kind of digital locks. The crucial thing about this example and why I'm highlighting it is you need redundancy in the wireless connectivity. So the digital lock could be connected by Wi-Fi, but you would also need some kind of backup connection, a cellular connection, in case the Wi-Fi goes down, so as to allow access to your property. So a telco would need to think about both the first line wireless connectivity and the second line wireless connectivity. I think we're sharing these slides, so you can go through these other problems and solutions yourselves and the relevant telco capabilities. Now, let me move to the next slide, which is really just a series of very short little case studies of telcos that are playing in this space. Deutsche Telekom's obviously one, and we're going to hear from Thomas in a minute about what Deutsche Telekom's doing, so I won't go into that but in any detail. But one thing I find interesting about their solution is that they placed a big onus on privacy and the safe, secure storage of personal data. Orange, which is actually partnering with Deutsche Telekom, I think in the smart speaker space, got an interesting proposition around a very holistic approach to the household, encompassing entertainment, communications, even financial services, and with its television proposition built in. So Orange is taking a very broad approach to serving householders. AT&T in the States is an interesting example because they've had their digital life smart home proposition for quite a long time, but it actually has in recent years run out of steam. And one of the issues with that proposition is it's quite a limited, rigid service, which has really failed to keep pace with what consumers are looking for. You have to have certain types of hardware. They were late to integrate things like smart speakers and Alexa, etc. And it really, the reason for highlighting AT&T in this context is it shows the need for a fluid, holistic solution that is integrated into the broader trends in this space rather than a rigid, tightly defined solution that doesn't really move on. Interestingly, in the US, Comcast has quite a successful smart home solution, which is piggybacking off its entertainment proposition, which, as you're probably aware, is very strong. And it's now providing security sort of alarm type systems to people in its entertainment ecosystem, and there's been pretty strong uptake of that. So and we cover some of those. Well, I think we cover all of those examples in the report, but the telcos clearly are looking to play in this space and see a potentially a major role for their capabilities. So just moving on to the next slide, I just want to touch on the importance of entertainment, I think, in this space. Now, you may think entertainment and smart home are separate markets, and in many respects they clearly are, but actually that's not necessarily the way consumers think about this, because entertainment is actually a big part of their home. If they're a parent, as I said earlier, they're kind of interested in what their children are doing at home when they're away from home. How long are they spending on their games consoles? Are they spending too much time on social media? Are they watching films certificate 18 that they shouldn't be watching necessarily? And there's lots of other places where entertainment and the smart home overlaps, things like obviously energy consumption, but also just the ambience in the home when you're entertaining guests, what kind of music you want, etc. So there's a big case for actually integrating a smart home with a broader entertainment proposition. And this is something that the likes of Amazon are doing at the moment, and as I alluded to earlier, Comcast is doing. I'm not going to go through this slide, but it does show, again, that telcos have potentially a role to play in the entertainment space, which they can use as a springboard to help them in the smart home space. Again, you will receive these slides. You can look at that in a little bit more detail if you want to. So I'm just going to... No, I can't move the slides on, actually. Let me just see if Amy can help me with that. I was going to, Yep, yeah, I was going to summarize on my next slide. So, as I just mentioned, I think smart homes and entertainment are natural bedfellows in this space. You could also bring personal transport into that, increasingly as people move to things like electric vehicles, electric scooters, electric bikes, etc. They need to be charged when you're at home. You might also be interested in your transport options, how to get around, etc. So, gradually, telcos and others need to think about how personal transport services and propositions are integrated into a smart home proposition. But if you buy into the idea that all these three areas overlap, there isn't one single player in the market at the moment that can provide all these pieces. Now, people like Google, Amazon, Apple, etc., are trying to assemble these pieces, but at the moment, there's a lot of things that a lot of pieces that they're missing, and ways in which telcos can either cooperate with them or compete with them, which will depend on the telco strategy, and particularly how they see the entertainment side of things. I think because Amazon in particular is very strong in entertainment, you wouldn't necessarily want to partner with Amazon in the smart home space if you were a telco with a strong entertainment proposition and were trying to compete with Amazon in the entertainment aggregation capacity. So as I said earlier, we think telcos, because connectivity is absolutely fundamental to this, and reliable connectivity, can play the systems integration role. But before they play that role, they need to make sure that connectivity is absolutely robust and fail-safe. And I would contend that you need a combination of Wi-Fi backed by a fiber link, but also cellular connectivity, probably using some of the newer technologies such as narrowband IoT or LTE-M as a backup connection, or in some cases as the first connection if you just need a very simple low bandwidth connection that's very easy to configure. So if you're going to provide a robust connectivity proposition in the smart home market, I think you need to bring in both forms of connectivity, both the fixed line Wi-Fi combination and the cellular. Wi-Fi will probably take the lead in most developed markets. In many developing markets, cellular might take the lead. But the important thing is to really have both and ensure that the consumer has that peace of mind that I alluded to earlier, and that the connectivity will always work. And another key role for telcos, which is, I think, as I said, Thomas might talk a little bit more about this, is telcos can, because of their business model is not orientated around advertising, it's not orientated around e-commerce and selling people products and services. Telcos can provide a level of privacy, they can provide a level of secure and local data storage that some of the internet players cannot provide. And just to give you a scenario here, many people may not be comfortable with having let's say an Amazon or a Google smart speaker in every home in their house, because they might not be sure how much information this smart speaker is picking up about what they're doing in the different parts of their home. So that kind of undermines the smart speaker use case or smart speaker role in some of these use cases. And allied to that, they may not be comfortable with a smart home proposition that is orientated around an advertising business model or an e-commerce business model that is subtly trying to sell you things when you're at home and you're trying to relax. So if telcos take a different business model that is built on subscription and lifetime customer value and bundling a kind of connectivity smart home proposition together that isn't relying on these kind of privacy implicating propositions around advertising, etc., they have potentially a clear differentiator from the internet players. Now, just before we move to Thomas, I'm just going to, sorry, I'm trying to move the slides, but not having any success there. I'm just going to very quickly, hopefully, show you a couple of research reports that we published recently. Yep, there we go. Thank you, Amy. So we've got the one that we mentioned at the start, which we published earlier this year, about the role of telcos in the smart home. I've given you some highlights from that, but there's a lot more information in there. Very recently, we published a report around the developments in Wi-Fi and how that is going to essentially create a stronger connectivity proposition in the home and some of the technological advances there. And we've also looked very recently as well about how telcos can help with personal transport and essentially the whole new forms of public transportation, that things like in the sharing economy, the role of Uber, Bird, Lime and others in providing alternatives to the traditional car or train paradigm. So those are 3 research reports that you might be interested in. I'm going to take your questions at the end of the webinar with Thomas, but now I'm going to hand over to Thomas and let him take the lead.
Thanks, David. Hello, everyone. Thomas Rockmann speaking, heading the consumer IoT and smart home business for the Deutsche Telekom group. I'm happy to participate in this webinar and share our view on smart home and how we want to address this market. And I think David shared a lot of insights already, which we can confirm in terms of having had the same learnings in this market for the last few years. What I will now share with you is what is our view on smart home and why we have decided as Deutsche Telekom Group to enter this innovative topic. From customer perspective, the smart home area is still a new area. So it's not yet really a mass market where the customer stands in front of our shops and are waiting for the next glue. So it's more that we still have to work on awareness and on education for our customers. That's why we have decided to make this category as one crucial building block of our consumer portfolio strategy. And we've done this already 3 years ago, that we've decided this journey to focus on the smart home category and prioritize it as a further innovative topic for our customers. If we talk about the ratio, why we have decided this, we see a lot of changes in our industry. So far, we as Deutsche Telekom and I would say also other telcos have got the same starting point, own the home. We bring access and superior connectivity to our customers. We have evolved this journey by not only having voice services in the houses of our customer, we have added broadband connectivity services and for sure also entertainment products. But what we see in the last years that more and more also vertical players, so single use case players like a Signify with Philips Hue portfolio or other IoT companies with cameras as a further example, are entering the households of our customers. And all this based on our DT connectivity. Next to this, we also see that big players, and we talked already about them, like Amazon, like Google, also starts with a very aggressive approach to enter the homes of our customers. That's why we have had a serious look on what does this mean for us as Deutsche Telekom, and what does it mean for the control point in the households of our customers, which so far we have owned together with our customers, and now we are facing a different competitor view than before. That's why we have decided to position us in a much more different way. What we want to become is a digital companion, a smart companion for our customers. What we want to achieve is that we are the smart companion in the life of our customers and bring them closer to what matters most to them, to their beloved ones, to their belongings at home and also on the go. So we talk about a superior ecosystem of combining people and things together, just like our claim is, life is for sharing. That's the big ratio why we've decided this vision and this strategy to work on. What's our offer? What we sell today in our market is a smart home product with a main target to position us as an integrator for different ecosystems in our market. What we've done is that we've integrated our smart home capabilities in all of our mass market routers. So all customers who today get broadband connectivity with our router, we call them speed ports, get already the smart home capabilities in their households. Furthermore, we have defined an own hardware portfolio to make it very easy for our customers to start with simple single use cases. We offer there a classical telco pricing with a subscription of €5 for 24 months. So you see that's very similar like telco industry is doing the business. And we also offer special starter sets for our customers to activate the customers and getting very easily on this product journey. Furthermore, we have enabled a broad partner ecosystem where we work in our German market with the key brands for the different use case categories. You see some logos on this page, like having classical smart home ecosystem partners in there, and also having automotive industry partners enabled. That's a topic where we're focusing on. And this ecosystem is still in development. So far, we have about more than 30 brands with more than 600 devices already enabled to our ecosystem. But that's a journey for us and for our customers. Furthermore, we position this as based of our open platform. So our approach is to have an open source architecture for our product category that it's very easy for third-party companies to integrate into our product offer. So that's a topic where we've really done intensively work to make it as easy as possible for third-party companies to integrate into our KiwiCon platform. That's how we named our smart home product, and combine these different hardware partners to a better solution for our customers. Furthermore, we also focus on value-added services. So to give you one example, in our home market in Germany, we cooperate with the Ergo insurance company to provide to our customers a monitored solution in terms of a burglary. That's a topic how we want to involve this category, how we want to make it more attractive for the customers that he can pick and choice out of a huge brand of strong device partners, with a category which he can start with. Key success factors for us are focusing on 4 topics. First one is that we have decided to link it with our core business. For us, it's not a standalone category. For us, it's part of our core consumer portfolio. That's why we've also decided to integrate the smart home capabilities and integrated it into our mass market routers. Furthermore, we are focusing on mass market. So far, and we share this numbers also officially as part of our investor relationship communication, end of 2018, we had more than 350,000 paying customers for our services. Next to this, also the expectation of our customers reflected by different market researches also shows that the telco provider is standing for interoperability. So the customer is looking for ease of use and interoperability of different device types, and a telco can provide this service for their customers. That's why we have built up an open and flexible platform. That's why we focus on a superior customer experience. And that's why we, especially as Deutsche Telekom, are using the assets of having a secure and product and focusing on data privacy in sense of the data are stored in Germany on German servers, and the customer can decide what should happen with this data. That's how we want to drive this, and that's for us 4 key success factors we're focusing on. But that's not all. I mentioned at the beginning that the journey and the category is still in the early stage. So to grow also beyond these numbers which I have shared and to focus there on further segments next to the early adopters, we want to address further customer segments with single use cases and support and offer them a broad portfolio of additional value-added services and devices. From our learning, the customer is looking for a simple product that addresses the specific needs and pain points. He will start with a single use case and then learns what this category is about. Afterwards, he asks for more capabilities and he's searching for a reliable, full ecosystem provider where we stand for. Next to this, the customer wants, as also the voting at the beginning was, is looking for a seamless customer experience. It must be as easy as possible for the customer to install, to adapt, and to use the product. So connectivity, and that's what Deutsche Telekom is standing for, should be as simple managed as possible. The device orchestration should be as simple as possible in terms of providing simple rules, simplest recommendations for our customers to see what the smart home really about. And last but not least, we have a focus not only on the home use cases, for us also on the go is an important area. That's why we've started also to cooperate since a while with companies like BMW and Volkswagen. So I can drive on the German Autobahn and watching the video of my house if there's, for example, an alarm, and just get right in action to call my neighbor or to use the Ergo service that somebody gets out to my house and is checking if everything is all right. That's how we want to address and grow further this category in our market in Germany and beyond. So a little bit to summarize up how we look at the journey, we think we have to focus on the superior product in terms of the customer experience. We have to lower the entry barriers by integrating the home-based functionality into our speedboard routers so that the customer does not have to think about any kind of technologies. We want to provide for our customers single use case solutions. That's very easy for him to start with. Combine it also with the telco assets which we have. So like using our push channels, which we have as a telco, we are selling this product in all of our telecom shops. We are selling this product online, and we use also third-party sales channels to sell our product. Furthermore, we think and we see that these categories are evolving from smart home also to consumer IoT. That's why we have started also with cooperating in the area of IoT devices like tracker, or also in the area of connected cars. Last but not least, we think that midterm also premium services will be more and more important for the customers. The first topic where we've started this, as I mentioned before, is Ergo, the insurance company in Germany, a huge one. But we see also midterm use cases in the area of elderly care and energy management and energy saving, especially if you focus on electric car as one example. But still, this category is not yet implemented, and from our understanding, it will take, again, some months, potentially also 1 to 2 years, until we see their breakthrough in premium services. All these use cases will only be possible if we, as a telco provider, offer the best connectivity. And the connectivity should not be a topic where the customer should think about. The use cases should be included with the right connectivity which the customer needs for each use case. So we should not think, is it a Wi-Fi device, is it a Zigbee device, is it a narrowband IoT device? It just should work. It should be easy and comfortable for the customer to step into this category. And the telco could stand especially for this asset to manage this digital life and this digital connectivity for our customers. If you look on our market penetration, we have not only launched this product in our home market in Germany. For sure, it's the biggest market we are currently in, as it's our home market. And first, we want to show that this category can grow to mass market. But next to our home market, we've launched this product also in the Netherlands, in Slovakia, in Austria, and also in Greece. These are the markets where the same product is currently in. That's why we've chosen an open source architecture for our product. We have got the flexibility in place to bring the same product into different markets very easy, very fast, with a great time to market. These are the insights which I wanted to share with you so far. Thanks a lot.
Right. Thank you very much, Thomas, for your presentation. Hope very much that everyone's thought of some good questions for us to address during the Q&A. But before we do, we're just going to have a second poll, which I'm going to let David introduce.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. So, yeah, having heard Thomas and I's presentation, so we're interested to know what type of companies you think will play the lead role in the smart home market in the country in which you live. Clearly, there's going to be differences market by market. We've given you 5 options here. Consumer electronics, stroke appliance makers, telcos, major internet platforms, utility stroke home security companies. I know they're different players, but those kind of service providers, and or personal transport providers such as Uber and Tesla. And if you could just make your choice, we'll have a quick look at the results before we get into the Q&A. Just see the votes coming in now. Yeah, just I mean, on this topic, we're kind of, well, we know we were asking you to pick one. So when we say lead role, we literally do mean the lead role. We realize that in many cases there'll be partnerships between these various different players, and in some cases the consumers will use even all of these players to provide a whole smart home solution. Excellent. Okay, so we're closing that poll, so we have the results, and we'll just quick comment on that. So major internet platforms, most popular choice, just a little bit ahead of the consumer electronics guys, telcos. and then utilities as the fourth choice. So not a big surprise there. I think that probably makes sense. Thomas, you got any comments on the results of that poll before we go to the Q&A?
I think it's no surprise, same view on this, especially if you look at the market invest, which is, for example, Amazon doing in Germany. They really try to educate and bring the right awareness on this topic. So this helps the entire category. If you look at Google, at Apple and Samsung, I think it's a natural logic that they also try to implement their platform to be more transparent in front of customers and to do not only stand for the devices, also to provide additional services. That's why I think also it's logic that both companies like Apple and Samsung with SmartThings are trying to enter this category.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. I think the question with the consumer electronics, the appliance makers, of course, is any one home going to be entirely an Apple shop or a Samsung shop or a Bosch shop, etc., and how they deal with interoperability if they are using multiple vendors. But as you mentioned, there are initiatives around that, but it's potentially somebody needs to do the systems integration there. But anyway, let's move into the Q&A. So back to Amy.
So I think actually, just while we have this poll up, one of the questions kind of links to this topic. So one of our listeners says there's some fear of missing out from telcos, that if they don't pair with Google or Amazon, that they're going to miss out in the smart home, which kind of, to me, implies a little bit of an either or. And again, so they're just asking to retouch on this idea of how important the smart speaker is in the smart home. And I guess, is it an either or between the Googles and Amazons and telcos, or, is it a shared role? And that's for both of you, I suppose.
Thomas speaking, perhaps I could start. For us, we have decided to work together with Google and Amazon in sense of using the voice capabilities. For us, it's the smart home, a product which should not be used by having a smartphone or a tablet in the hand. I think it's a natural interface for a customer that he also wants to use by voice. But also voice is fast only one step, because in the kind of end game, you also do not want to talk to your house. The house should imagine what you want, and it should be more intelligent. Then we can start about really a smart home, and not only about an automation of your house. So for us, it's for sure one key strategic element to enable different voice services to use in the current market phase. The awareness campaigns from Amazon and also Google, that the customer is well educated and is known by having this voice capability in place. That's why we've decided to link it together. But for us, it's only one element where the customer is looking for. We are also working on the right intelligent house. That's why for us, it's really more important to have all natural interfaces enabled for our smart home. And that's next to voice, the classical smartphone and tablet, and also more intelligent in the house.
Thanks, Thomas. Yeah, and if I'll just add very quickly, I think this is very much a strategic decision for telcos as to in which parts of the market they want to play and how strong a relationship they want with individual consumers. For example, if you're AT&T and you're pushing hard into the video streaming on demand market, you're effectively competing directly with Amazon Prime on a global basis, and you would potentially, in the context of that, you'd be concerned about maybe helping Amazon get a very strong foothold in your customers' homes, because it may ultimately push out your own video on demand services. So it is a sort of telco by telco decision. What I would say, though, is in many markets, a smart speaker is going to be a part of the smart home solution, but it's going to be one of a number of interfaces, which could include the iPhone from Apple. It could include tablets, etc. And all of these the smart home services need to be available across all of these kind of interfaces and devices, depending on the use case. So I think the telco needs to work with a number of players, including the major internet player, to ensure the consumer can access the services when they want. But it is a strategic decision as to whether you let the internet player take the lead in the customer relationship, or whether you work with the internet player, or you integrate the internet player's solution into your own proposition.
So sort of expanding in a slightly different direction on this question, and I think Thomas, you probably have a view on this given DT's role. We have a question that says, how can you partner with the likes of Amazon and Google while maintaining consumer privacy and playing that as your, an important card? How do you balance those two things?
Mm-hmm. Well, that was an intensive discussion also DT internally, as these players are strong and also bring their views to the topic. What we have decided is that we have implemented a very transparent customer journey. So the customer, for example, starts with our Magenta Smart Home product. Then he is asking for voice capabilities. One topic which we will be doing, mentioned at the beginning, we are working on the one hand on our own voice capabilities, but they are not yet in place. So we offer also to log into Amazon Voice or Google Voice. But this process of logging into these two big internet providers is very transparent, that the customer really knows what he's doing. So we show him what will happen with this data. It's very well explained and described what will happen with this data. So it's a proactively opt-in into this, and it's not an opt-out. That's how we have decided to make it transparent for the customer, and the customer will take the decision. He can decide what he wants.
Thank you very much. That was great, Thomas. So I've got another question here, which is a little bit of the devil's advocate, saying that actually, if you look at it deep down, have smart home strategies changed all that much in the last five, I mean, arguably however long years? And they keep saying that, oh, now it's really going to happen. Now it's really a growth market. So I'd be interested to get both your perspective, David, and yours, Thomas, in terms of, what's changing now? Is there something changing now that is making this a real growth opportunity today as compared to before?
Yeah, I mean, I can start with that, Amy. Thank you. I mean, I think there are some fundamental changes. One is the costs of both the hardware, the connectivity, the software is coming down. So from a cost perspective, a lot of these solutions are becoming more viable. Secondly, I'd go back to those macro trends I mentioned earlier. I mean, a big one is the sharing economy, which is a relatively recent phenomenon. Now, not everybody's participating in the sharing economy, but at the same time, they are online shopping. They want to provide access to delivery people, etc., to their home to get deliveries dropped off. It's about convenience, and they want that kind of remote control and remote monitoring of their home in that context. Security has always been there, and the peace of mind around parenting and your assets and looking after them, it's definitely always been there. That's not been a new thing, although I think it is true that in some markets we've had rapid urbanization. There is, let's say, a fear of rising crime. Whether there is rising crime or not, it's often a question of perception. It's a fear of rising crime, and there's housing shortages, etc. So I think there's a perception amongst people that they want to be able to monitor their assets, monitor their possessions, etc. It's certainly not a new phenomenon. As I say, it's always been there, but there is this question about, as cities become more densely populated, housing's in short supply, this trend around both the sharing economy and this fear of rising crime and people breaking into or even occupying properties that are uninhabited for weeks while you're on holiday, etc. So there's genuine concerns and demand for that peace of mind that I mentioned earlier.
Thanks, David. Thomas?
Great aspects. Thomas, I could add great aspects which you mentioned, David, at this point. And to be honest, we do not know if this breakthrough will happen now. But there are a lot of data points, and David shared a few of them, why we think that we have worked on the entry barriers, which we have seen so far in the market. And the entry barriers for the customers in the last years, for sure, were cost. So if you look at the devices, they are still quite expensive for a customer. If you talk, for example, about a door window contact or thermostat, quite famous in Germany, it's a high price. If you match it with an analog, with a classical thermostat, for example. So still there's a journey where the industry has to work on lowering the cost to make it much more cheaper for the mass market customers to enter in this category. The prices already have declined, but I think it's still a way to go. Furthermore, in terms of lowering the entry barriers, I think integrating the smart home functionalities in every household is one key asset. That the customer doesn't have to think about having a hub or something like this in a house. It's just smart. He steps into a house and the house is smart. Now the capabilities are in place. So that's for us the second topic, which we've changed if you match it with the last years. And furthermore, I would say even the most important one is the education of the customers. The customers have started to learn more and more about the categories. At the beginning, it was really the tech guys who have focused on the smart home, who have done this more like a hobby instead of asking for a use case. And I think this was the main driver in the last months and few years, where this category has evolved more from a niche market into a kind of mass market. And if you see what's also on consolidation ongoing in the market, we see that there could be a breakthrough in the next 12 to 36 months, where we really reach out for much higher customer numbers in sense of using not only one smart device, in sense of using multiple smart devices and bring them together.
Thank you very much, Thomas. I've got another question for you that kind of tails on the back of this one in terms of how do you see the business case for the smart home? For Deutsche Telekom, is it more about customer retention and improving that stickiness, or is it really about growing an entirely new business in its own right?
For us, there are different elements in this business case. One key topic you mentioned, Amy, for sure is retention. So that's why we've decided to bring this topic close to our core business. For us, it's that in the future, the customers will take connectivity for granted. And we see this trend already. That's why we have decided, for example, to enter first additional value-added service categories with the entertainment topic. But with the smart home category, we see a second bet in this area where we can play a big role as a telco operator in, and where we can provide our customers with a reliable product based on our connectivity, additional value. So one key element in this business case is the lock-in effect into our connectivity by providing additional value-added services in the smart home area. But that's not all. We see also a second driver. The second driver for us is subscription-based premium services, which we sell to our customers. Today, we sell a kind of peace of mind product for our customers with a monthly subscription. And for sure, there's also some money in the hardware business, as the margins are still on a good level with these high prices. So this is a second element. Last but not least, we see also a cost effect. By knowing more what's going on in the households in terms of devices who are connected, we can also manage service costs in a much more different way by having much more data points. What's the device state? What's the device doing? Is a problem with the device? Is a problem with the connectivity? That's for us a further element in a business case structure.
Thank you very much again, Thomas, for a very detailed answer. I think that we have time for one more question. And again, Thomas, you're very popular, so I think this one is geared more towards you. So the question is, Smart Companion is potentially a huge role for the consumer. How do you define in that field what you do versus you don't do? And, for example, does it include all of e-commerce, insurance services, education? How far down that road will you try to go?
Yes, that's a great question. And to be honest, we do not know the answer yet in an entire fully picture. That's what I said when I mentioned we have started this journey. That's our vision, that's our ambition, which we want to achieve. That the customer, if he is looking for any kind of company who can guide the customer through the digital life, that he starts thinking about Deutsche Telekom, about the Magenta team. That's our vision. But we have started small. We have started with a home automation product. We've evolved this category, made it more and more simple. But so far we have not yet implemented in a mass market manner further value-added services. I mentioned some of these services in the area of security, monitored security, elderly care, energy, but all these topics are part of a huge digitalization change in our customers' life. And I think these processes first have to happen to come to a final answer in which areas we will be in, where we will partner with, because especially in the premium value-added service area, there are not everywhere rights for Deutsche Telekom to play. So I think there's also a big effort in partnering approaches, like we do already with Ergo. There will be potentially further other partners in different areas where it's sensible for a telco operator to partner with and to step into these categories.
Maybe, yeah, if I could just add a couple of things, actually. If you start with what the consumer need is, and I'm not saying that telcos can necessarily deliver all of this, but I think in an ideal world, they want to have some kind of dashboard which shows all of their assets, everything that they care about, and it shows the status of that asset, i.e. where it is, what kind of energy it's using, how long was it since its last service, what kind of condition is it in, what sort of insurance status has it got, is it in the same vicinity as another one of your assets, or one of your family, or whatever it is. So, I think in an ideal world, you would have some kind of dashboard that everything you care about is there, visible, and you have complete transparency about what is happening with those assets, what state they're in, and some element of remote control over those assets depending on what they are. So I think if you start with that kind of idealistic scenario, telcos should be moving towards providing those kind of services if they aspire to play in the smart home and what I would call the greater smart home space.
Thank you very much, both David and Thomas. So I think that we're drawing to a close of the webinar here. We've had lots of great questions. So thank you everyone for participating. And thank you very much to David and Thomas for your presentations and your answers to the questions. Just to let you guys know that we will be sending out the slides within the next couple of days. So keep a lookout for those, as well as a link to the recording. But do get in touch if you have any other questions that you think of afterwards. So thank you very much, Thomas. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Amy. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Amy.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.